Just a decade ago, it was possible to still find pro-gun Democrats. Kirsten Gillibrand claimed to be one of them. Now the party is dominated by anti-gun zealotry. This week, the House is scheduled to vote on a bill that would mandate background checks for all gun transfers. Excuse me, loan your gun to a nephew, sell one to your best friend. It could be a crime if this bill passes. Ryan Cleckner is a firearms attorney and a columnist at The Federalist, and he joins us tonight. So this, when they say background checks, Ryan, for all gun transfers, what does that cover?
Well, background checks, to back up a second, already happen at every single transaction in a gun shop or gun dealers across the country. When they're saying for all transactions, they're trying to include those private sales that might happen between residents of the same state. So, for example, friends selling each other guns or family members or things like that.
So that would basically ban, if I'm hunting with a friend or am at a gun range, I need the government's permission before any transfer takes place at all.
That's a good question.
Is there any evidence? Yeah.
They actually put an exemption in the bill for that. So whenever I hear about universal background checks, my immediate comebacks are, what about what you just brought up? Or what about somebody who might be suicidal and asks a friend to take their guns from them? Those are all the things that typically come up, and they came out with exemptions in this bill. But the problem I have with the bill is that it is entirely too burdensome on gun dealers, on individuals. I think it's the federal government sticking its nose in what might be a state's rights or state business issue. I think it's a big problem despite the family member issue.
Is there any evidence that this would prevent mass shootings? I mean, have we seen a spate of mass shootings where people avoided background checks? I mean, I don't think this is, from what I can tell, a driving factor in mass killings, is it?
You're absolutely right. Matter of fact, so currently the federal law says that any interstate between two states transfer of guns has to go through a gun dealer, and any sale through a gun dealer does the background checks. Well, we have almost half the states in our country. 20 states have extra restrictions that already require universal background checks in that state. And some of those states have already had the mass shootings, like Connecticut, for example, has universal background checks in the state of Connecticut, did nothing to stop Newtown. I went through and looked at the 12 biggest mass shootings that we've had since the federal background check system went into place, and not a single one of the 12 would have been prevented. We're talking Parkland, we're talking Newtown, we're talking San Bernardino, Fort Hood, the Orlando nightclub shooting, Aurora movie theaters, Las Vegas, every single one of these cases, the shooter, the murderer, the person that's to blame, bought the gun from a gun store and passed a background check, or in only a couple of those 12, they had somebody else buy the gun for them to completely circumvent the process, which means they would have done nothing to stop these past 12 that we had.
Then why do conservatives play along with this game? Democrats come out and they say, we want to make the country safer, we want common sense gun regulation. They make no attempt to disarm criminals. They make no attempt to tailor the laws and focus on the people who are actually committing the crimes. They're trying to disarm the population. They don't want middle America to have guns. Why don't we just say that out loud?
Maybe they should. We have one thing in common of every mass killing. I'm not just going to talk about mass shootings, but one thing in common with every mass killing is you have one evil person or more that is intent on killing innocent people. The tool can change one way or the other. That's seems to be the focus of everyone here. But the problem is, this is a maxim. Every single call for gun control is also an admission that gun control doesn't work. Because every time we try and add new gun law, we have to ignore the fact that all the gun laws and all the laws that are already broken didn't stop the person. Murder didn't stop the person. Having a gun on a school zone didn't stop the person. Stealing a gun didn't stop the person. So by asking for something more, you have to admit that gun laws don't work.
So maybe people who believe in the Second Amendment should resist in some way and say, look, I see what you're doing. You want to take my guns away because you want to control me. Let's stop playing along with these kind of literal responses. Well, actually, the numbers show you. They don't care what the numbers show. I've had this debate 1,000 times. They don't care what you say. They want to take your guns away because it's inconvenient for you to have them.
It's true. I mean, the first step to confiscation is registration. I don't mean to say that's necessarily going to happen, but it gets me scared. And here's the problem, is I understand that after these mass shootings, these horrible incidents, that people want to do something. I want to do something. Tucker, I believe you want to do something. But banning guns isn't going to work. And I think we have a problem that we need to address. I mean, you and I and people on our side of the aisle here, is that just saying that new gun laws won't work it's right. New gun laws won't work, but not offering an alternative or a solution that will might be part of the problem. I mean, a little over a year ago, some of my special operations veterans and I, we made Mayday Safety, which is technology and smartphones and dashboards and systems so that schools and churches can communicate and track where people are and first responders can get help where it's needed. That's something that's a proactive solution. So I encourage the gun community not only to resist, not only to fight back, not only to say that new gun laws won't work, but don't stop the sentence there. Say new gun laws won't work.
I think
here's
that's right.
something that might.
I think you're absolutely right about that. Ryan, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me on again, Tucker.
The Oscars didn't have a single host last night, but it was the same series of political sermons you have come to dread by now. Look at the lowlights and ask, does anybody still care what happens at the Oscars? Stay tuned.